huge thanks to OK Jazzy. They're your go-to for the 2026 World Cup and an incredible retro archive. They got decades of iconic league classics, from legendary 90s designs to the rarest club heritage kits. Whether it's a high-performance player version or a timeless vintage look, prices start at just £15, 4.5 Trustpilot rating and fast shipping. Use code Chris for 8% off and grab your piece of football history now.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Cowlin and this is another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. Now, sorry for any background noise. I'm at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium where Spurs have just beaten Hoffenheim 3-0. Spurs remain unbeaten in pre-season, and of course the final pre-season game takes place tomorrow at Hotspur Way behind closed doors against Hoffenheim again. Now, we're live on YouTube, live on X and Facebook. Please do get involved in the show. Let us know how you are feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now, the transfer window, and of course, pre-season. Now, as per usual, I've got three channel regulars with me. Ricky Norwood's back with us. Ricky, how are you?
Oh, my friend, I'm happy to be back. I'm buzzing after a good pre-season win. And just an honour and a pleasure to be back on with yourself and these beautiful gentlemen, heading in to a Premier League season with a proper Tottenham manager at the helm, playing some proper football. So, yes, my friend, I'm super excited. Let's have it.
I actually apologise to the guys before we went live because I'm trying to find a quiet spot inside the stadium because it is very busy here today and everyone is in a very, very good mood. Joining us all the way from Singapore is Dustin. Dustin, how are you?
All right. It's great to come in after a win. I imagine it's hard to find a quiet spot in the stadium when everyone's going na 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 na. So it's after last season, it's good to start the season off looking forward to the songs after the match rather than thinking about which player are we going to boo especially loudly this time.
I'll tell you what, there are only two cheers today, and both of them were for the hydration breaks, but we will get into it. Also joining us is Orchy, all the way from Istanbul, Turkey. Orchy, how are you?
Really good, mate. Sunny weather, a good, solid performance just before the season starts. What can you ask for, really? Full of hope for the new season. Excited.
Absolutely. There is a lot to get into in this episode. I'm really looking forward to this one. Now, let's start by talking about the scoreline itself. Spurs 3, Hoffenheim 0. Richarlison with Tottenham's opening goal after 35 minutes, assisted by Andy Robertson. And Mikey Moore with a brace after 59 minutes and 79 minutes. And both of them were assisted by Matisse Tell. Now, the match facts and stats. Tottenham Hotspur had 52.6% of the ball. Hoffenheim had 47.4%. Shots, both teams had 10 shots. Now, shots on target, Spurs had 5, Hoffenheim 3. Goalkeeper saves, Spurs 3, Hoffenheim 2. Fouls committed, Spurs 6, Hoffenheim 13. And corners, Spurs had 2, Hoffenheim had 4. Now, let's go straight to Ricky Norwood to get his thoughts on today's match.
Oh, Chris, mate. You know what? Today was the type of preseason game I like to see. The one, just before the season starts. The one with some of the new players integrated. It has been a crazy preseason with all of the World Cup guys coming back in and stuff like that, and being out as yourself, as you know, out in Australia and New Zealand. So it has been a bit bitty, but this is the one that I really like to see. the one at home before the season starts. And I saw a lot. Of really, really good things that I'm encouraged and excited about, especially after, what last season was. To see the back line the way it was, to see Kinski comfortable, to see us start playing the patterns of play that De Zerbi wants to play, the confidence, the calmness, one-touch passing, confident passing. They didn't have no fear. They had a lot of focus. They were energized and they were urgent. There was an urgency about them today. It was really, really good to see. I think Tonali is, oh my goodness, that that guy is already class. I can see him already. I can see it already. The first touch passes, the control in defense, through midfield, up front. He was everywhere. I think he's going to be a diamond, an absolute diamond. But there were so many really good performances. I know we'll get into it, but I was just really impressed, firstly, to see us play football the way that we enjoy football to be played. You know, ball on the ground, passing through, skill, flair, tenacity, kind of the passes that are not safe, challenging the opposition, driving, looking to attack, looking to shoot, looking to cross. So all of those things that was devoid of our football for a very, very long time until De Zerbi turned up, basically. Last year. It's so good to see what they've been working on in training. It's so good to see what they've been working on throughout pre-season. And this, for me, is the base level, right? This is the bottom level of what we should expect from Robert De Zerbi's football and from this team. This is the base level. That means, in my eyes, what I can see is us growing week in, week out. The more that we understand the system, the more that we trust it. You know, this system and this way of playing brought the best out of the likes of Matisse Tell and Mikey Moore today. And this is just the beginning. So for me, I'm really excited to see these really positive green shoots coming through with a passionate manager, with a team that is behind his way of playing. They want to play for it. You can see it already. You can see it already. And I don't want to get too excited. And I know that's hard for me to be, because you know me already. But
get excited.
But you know what? I think so. I think it is. I think we're allowed to get excited after what we've been through. And like I say, if this is the foundation, if this is the baseline, oh my goodness, there's something really beautiful to come, man. I think we're going to be smiling the majority of this season.
I spoke to Mickey Hazard, who was in fine form before the match, and he said that he's very optimistic going into the brand new campaign, and he will take just the Premier League title rather than all the trophies that we're going for this season. But in all seriousness, it does feel very, very different, particularly here at the stadium. Many people feel excited. I know we'll talk about the transfer window shortly, but there is a completely different vibe under Roberto De Zerbi, and I've been raving about De Zerbi, particularly like you mentioned, Ricky, going out to New Zealand, Australia, seeing those training sessions. De Zerbi is so intense in those training sessions. I absolutely love watching them, watching him talking to the players, working with the players, and just instilling real belief to every single player as well. And during the hydration breaks, which we'll talk about shortly as well, the second one, he went straight up to Kinski, put his arm around him and told him exactly what he expected. And it was a complete contrast. The podcast we recorded after the Atletico Madrid game, where he wasn't even acknowledged by the manager who subbed him to what we saw today. So, yeah, an incredible difference. And there is real optimism around this football club. And that's what I love. And that's why I love people like you on here, Ricky, to bring that spark and bring the energy as well. So, good times ahead, hopefully.
But Chris, you know what? I've missed it, mate. I've missed it. I've missed being down. I've missed looking at my team and seeing all of the madness that, running into brick walls and running off of cliffs and the whole ship sinking, bro. We were that close. We were that close. So to be able to see my team play like that, it just reinvigorates my soul a little bit, bro. It makes my heart beat a little bit faster. And without playing a game in the Premier League and without a point on the line right now, I'm buzzing, my friend. I'm buzzing, mate. And, like I say, it's just the beginning and there's more to come.
Dustin, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's match.
Yeah, I thought today's match was, I think the rest of preseason has kind of been a bit stop-start, partially because, especially for the preseason where we went all the way to the Southern Hemisphere, and it was a great experience for the fans there. But I felt that preseason was more of like get minutes into legs and don't get anyone injured. So it was very much, we weren't seeing lineups that we realistically look at and go, this is our first 11. And I think that today we saw a lineup that, considering that we're still playing a game tomorrow, Clearly, no Mickey van der Ven and Pedro Porro, who would clearly be in our first team most of the time. I think that we saw really a lineup that's close to what we play in the Premier League. And it was very interesting to see Senesi and Jean-Paul Van Hecker in the same starting lineup, because we've always had, only at most one midfielder, one centre-back that's capable of making through passes. And now we have two. And what's really interesting is that the dynamic that it causes, because previously when we had Mickey van der Ven and he who shall not be named, he would be there baiting the press, and then when he can't make the pass, he passes out to Mickey van der Ven. And Van der Ven has a completely different dynamic. So if a team doesn't want to deal with through passes, they know that they press one centre-back and the other centre-back doesn't do it. But when you're Jean-Paul Van Hecker and Senesi both able to play through passes, you can see the Hoffenheim players saying, I have to stop the through pass. And then they press one centre-back, passes to the other. Oh, he can do it too. And what happened as a result was that we saw a lot of through passes down the centre. And unfortunately, what we have there is Richarlison. And he did once in a while pull off a good one-touch pass to the wings. But that's the kind of dynamic that we can then start to expect, where we'll see more penetrating passes down the centre. And then you have striker dropping deep to take that one-touch pass, which pulls out a centre-back. And then that creates a space for the wingers to run into. So there's a lot more dynamism just on the basis of the kinds of passes we're making, the positions we're taking up, and the defenders that we're pulling out of position. So it was really interesting to watch, just from the basis of even our movement on and off the ball. So even off the ball, in an attacking sense, we had a lot more interesting movement. But what I observed that was quite interesting was that even out of possession, our movement was actually very interesting. It wasn't static. It wasn't, I'm just playing a positional defending game. I saw a lot of shuffling of positions, and it didn't look like it was shuffling because it was messy. It looked like we were shuffling because players had an idea of like, now I'm going to take over your zone while you press this midfielder. So that was the pattern that I was seeing. I didn't see enough of it to understand what De Zerbi was trying to do, but it certainly looked like something that was part of the out of possession plan, which is very interesting.
Dustin, can I ask about that point that you've made there? Because it has been a shame that Roberto De Zerbi, particularly with the World Cup as well, it's been a shame that De Zerbi hasn't had the full squad to work with during pre-season. And also, what have you made of the opposition that we have had during pre-season? Has it been difficult enough? Because as I mentioned, yes, we're unbeaten, but would you have rather a lot tougher opposition during this pre-season?
I think it's difficult, right? Because like sometimes we say we want tougher opposition during pre-season, and then we end up playing London derbies overseas, like Arsenal last season and Chelsea last season, and we're like, oh, I'm not sure about that. So look, I think that it's correct to want to play tougher teams during pre-season, but I think that to a certain extent, when we're trying to bid in a new system, part of it is kind of getting players encouraged and excited for what the system can do. So the challenge is that, if you play PSG in preseason, for example, right, it can be demoralizing because you're trying to bid in a new system, but you get torn apart by the best team in the world. So there's a balance to strike. I think that it's important to play teams that will press in a similar way to the Premier League. I think that prepares you better than just playing significantly weaker teams the entire preseason. So I think that for what it's worth, the Southern Hemisphere preseason presented a challenge in the sense that we didn't have very high level opposition that would press in a similar way to the Premier League. But we did eventually, play Chelsea and now Hoffenheim, which would pressure our defenders in a different way. That said, the reason that you do want to not play the strongest teams in preseason is so that they are you get to get in the rhythm of how the team develops. You get into a rhythm of how players can find each other, how they can get chemistry together. We see now that Tell and Mikey Moore, for example, potentially have a good wing-to-wing partnership there, which we haven't really had the likes of for a long time. So from that perspective, I think that Hoffenheim is a good balance of, if they were a Premier League team, let's face it, it would most likely be a lower half team, but you still do have to play, half of the Premier League teams are lower half teams. So it's good to play against a team that is within the realms of possibility of what you face in the Premier League, but at the same time, it's also good not play too strong a team so that you can get players comfortable with the system, confident in the system, start developing partnerships, and then, maybe Mikey Moore doesn't go out alone now because it looks like he's developing a lot of confidence. He's bulked up a lot, and his second goal in particular was, a great run breaking across and getting in front of his defender. So there are a bunch of things there that you can take encouragement from.
Orchy, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's 3-0 win.
I think it was this weekend, especially because it's a week before the season starts, was a good chance for us to see where the team's at. Obviously, there were, I would say, at least sort of 3 or 4 certain starters in that team, but we saw probably the majority of the players that are going to be starting next weekend against Brentford. And, I think overall, this whole preseason so far has got me excited, Chris. I have to be honest, after the nightmare of last season and just the terrible football, the negative football, Thomas Frank's, the way he set up the team and everything, I mean, as you know, yeah, he who shall not be named. I mean, last year, honestly, I can't wait to forget last year for a number of reasons. As you know, like this past year, I lost my mum. My 6.5-year relationship came to an end. And the one thing that I had to look forward to every weekend, which is to watch the team that I love since the 80s. It was like the final nail in the coffin. So last year was very dark for me. And now here we are, coming through all this darkness, and it's like massive light, just like how today was a nice sunny day. And it was just a nice, positive performance. I do not obviously watching the entire match. I did not see a single player hold on to the ball too long. I did not see players doing ridiculous, like every one of them looking clueless, not knowing what to do. It's like every time we play that ball, yes, we made some mistakes. Yes, at times Hoffenheim had a couple of chances. They had one ball, they hit the post, they hit the bar once. But overall, we bossed that game. We from the start, we looked like we knew what we were doing. There was a clear game plan. Every player knew when they have the ball, they knew what to do. They had confidence. They all looked confident in what they were doing. There were one-touch passes. There were through balls. There were, just some individual brilliant bits of skill on show. Something that we didn't see probably for 95% of last season. So, and this isn't a pre-season friendly where you still got 3 or 4 first team certain starters missing from that starting lineup. So I love today, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's game because I'm looking forward to seeing a couple of we know, for example, Porro, there's no way he's going to get any minutes tomorrow because he's literally just come back to the team after the World Cup. But certainly we didn't see Fernandes today, our second big transfer of the season. We didn't see Van de Ven. Obviously, I think he's got a knock, so it's touch and go. We didn't see Kudus, who's apparently almost ready to start the season. So there are definitely, imagine, add Porro to that team, add Fernandes, add Kudus to that team. It's like the difference is like day and night. It's so different, and it just fills me up with hope. I just can't wait for the season to start. And I'm sure we'll talk about it later. We still need additions to this team, but certainly the team that Roberto De Zerbi is putting together and his style of play, his different his different sort of football philosophy is already having massive, you can clearly see the difference. And as I said, it's like night and day. And let's, hopefully if we get sort of a two or three more good signings, left wing, attack, and now that Spencer's gone, probably need a right back as well. I think I'm really excited for the season because with the lack of European football, one game a week. I think, you know, we could, there's a good potential there that, you know, going from almost being relegated, we can, you know, I'm not gonna shy away. Like we could break into that top 5. I think we can definitely break into that top 5 and potentially win one of the, I think we've got to be a favorite to one of the domestic cups, whether it's the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. So I'm really excited for this season. I can't wait to see what more there is to come from this team. They're not going to be perfect from the first game. Like next weekend, everybody set your expectations. We're not going to play brilliantly and perfectly. But if there's this much improvement already, you know, imagine like game week 5, imagine game week 10. I think this team is just going to get stronger and stronger as the players take more on board the coaching from Roberto De Zerbi, because I think he's clearly a player's manager. You know, we've had these kind of managers in the past. So I can't wait to see as the season progresses, fingers crossed, as long as we don't have another injury crisis, if we can keep all our top players injury free, I think this could be an incredible season for us. And I think that's what De Zerbi wants as well. He wants to make headlines. He wants to win things with this team because I think he's definitely, he sees the opportunity. You know, he's done really well. He's got a great reputation in the football world. But this is the first time where he's taken on a team, you know, with all due respect to Brighton, to Marseille, but Tottenham are literally, with everything that we have, with our, you know, with our training facility, with that incredible stadium, we are a sleeping giant. We just need to get it right with the transfers, build a team, have the kind of manager that's going to hopefully build a team that's capable of fighting on all fronts. And that seems to be the direction that we're going. So, of course, I am really happy. This was a very exciting day.
Ricky, I know you're excited because I can see you nodding along to everything that you just said there. But like I've said, in the training sessions that I've watched, and Orchy touched on it there, about the one-touch football. And also, which I will mention now, and I'll mention it when we're talking about the match instance as well, Antonin Kinski, ball-playing goalkeeper. I tell you what, he has really improved. Certainly since that terrible event what happened in Atletico Madrid when he went off for Vicario. So huge improvements. And of course, we've just signed 2 ball-playing centre-backs in Van Hecke and Senesi as well, which we'll talk about these instants. But there is a lot of excitement about De Zerbi, isn't there?
There is, mate. There is. It's because we can see it. We can see it. Look, pretty much every single press conference that I've seen him speaking since he's got here, when we was barren, you know, on our way out of this league, I've been impressed with. I don't think he talks in sound bites. I think he talks from his heart. I think he talks from within. You can see the passion and the love that he has for football and playing football the right way. And the thing is with you know, people talk about him being fiery and stuff like that. I like his fire. I like his passion. You know, there was there's been times in my career, right, where I've been on set and there's been a director that shouts, right? And some actors won't like that. But the reason that he's shouting is because something ain't right, right? The prop ain't right. The light ain't right. There's something ain't right. The costume ain't right. Something ain't right. So he'll shout about it. But there's some people that don't like that. I respect it. You know, I respect it because he's not shouting at you to be mean or to be horrible. He's shouting because he sees something wrong in something that he cares so much about. It's the same with De Zerbi. Whenever he's had a bust up at Marseille or Brighton, or whenever he's left a job, it's because they've been willing and been clubs that have sold their best players, that have developed and sold. That's their ecosystem. Whereas Tottenham, at this present time and at this moment of change, there's a club there that is actually wanting a manager with that type of ambition and that type of drive and that type of clear vision, clear direction, because we have been all over the place. So for him to come in and for this ENIC 2.0 to meet, you know, in the middle and let him drive this ship, let him sail it, let him point it in the direction that he knows is the right way. Do you know what I mean? That we're on our way to gold. That's fantastic, bro. And we can all see it and we can all feel it. You know, the fact that he says, if you don't want to be in this club, that's no problem. You know, you can leave, you know, in the nicest way possible. I love that. I don't want nobody at Tottenham that don't want to be there. If your heart ain't there for Tottenham, that you can see it. Yeah, I mean, look at Kolo Muani last year. You could see his heart in his head was nowhere near us. You know, even when Roberto De Zerbi had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with him, there was a moment, I can't remember what game, where he came off and he went like that to the crowd. And I was like, oh, that's the first time I've seen him feel anything, you know? And then we hear reports that all he was thinking about was Juventus. So we don't want players like that no more. If your head's too big for the dressing room, then you can see yourself out as well, you know? Your heart and your head need to be on the football, on the win, on the drive, on the club, on glory, on never settling, you know, on raising the bar. If we win next week 4-0, then they want to raise the bar and make sure that we win 5-0. Or do you know what I mean? Like, it's about setting those standards. And if you look at the quality of players that Roberto De Zerbi signed off on, they're all that way inclined. So as a squad, you can't drop the standard. You're going to get it. You're not going to get away with it with Robertson. You're not going to get away with it with Van Heck, who, you know, he calls his son. You know, he's got his maestro in midfield right now that we've paid £100 million for, that is going to do everything inside and out from A to Z what De Zerbi's asking him to do. And if £100 million player can do it, then why can't you do it? And why can't you do it over there? So the bar does not drop now. We have leveled up so much. And it's all down to that guy. Because without De Zerbi, firstly, there's no Premier League. Secondly, there's no Van Hecker. There's no Tonali. There's no Fernandes. I'm telling you that now. There is no way. There is no way. I don't care how much money we had in the damn bank. There was no way. They would have looked and gone, you know what? You know, who knows what Tottenham's going to be, not just for now, but in 18 months' time or by Christmas, you know. But with somebody like him, that straight away there's confidence. Straight away, Fernandes can go, I want to go Tottenham. No, that's where I want to be. Tonali can turn down clubs, you know, Gooners, Man City, whoever, and go, no. I know where my best football's going to be. It's going to be at Tottenham under De Zerbi. That for me, wow. You know, that is, and for him to change the mood, the feeling, the atmosphere at the club of where it was last year. The only thing the boys were playing for last year was to go down. That was it. That's the only thing they was playing for until he turned up. And if you listen to some of the statements coming out of, even Dragusin came out with an interview, I think it was yesterday, and he was talking about, you know, when De Zerbi came in, and he was like, no, listen, you believe in me. And they felt the goosebumps and everything, and they believed in him, and then they started to get some confidence back, you know? So you can feel it already, mate. You can feel it already. And that's why, you know, after, again, Orchy said it, man, after all of the things that, the darkness, the clouds that we've been through, to have somebody like that and to have the club backing him in the right manner, in a proper manner, oh my goodness. And that's why I'm not too worried about the forwards that are going to come in. As long as they are RDZ's picks, I'll be a happy guy with them. Because he's got a plan. And he's got a master plan that we haven't even got a clue of yet. And the best is yet to come. So why can't we be excited about it? It's the first time that you can see it, mate. You can see it. Look what he done with the legends the other day. Like, he brought the legends in. If you go and see the under-21s, under-18s, under-16s, they're all playing the same way. That hasn't happened since Poch. You know, we're all trying to play the same way. This is beautiful to see. It doesn't matter if we bring in some of the youth today. They're playing the same way. They've been trained the same way. This is our philosophy. This is our direction. This is what you do. That is amazing for us, bro. From where you got to be kidding me. That is amazing, man. So there is so many bright days ahead, my friend. There is reason to get excited and to be behind this manager. It's going to be a rocky road. We all know that we don't get anything easy. It's always got to be hard, but it's all right. It's okay, because I got faith, and for the first time ever, I've got belief that not only the manager, but these players will get it going. And even if we have another injury crisis, and please touch wood, no more, But even if we do, whoever comes in will be playing in exactly the same way, with the exact same passion, with the exact same drive to go out there and get a result, whichever which way we need to do it. So it's beautiful times ahead, brother.
Beautiful times ahead, indeed. And I'll tell you what, I love your positivity, Ricky, really do. And I know I mentioned earlier that I spoke to Mickey Hazard before today's game. Please do check out the interview, because it was too long to put on this podcast. It's about 8 minutes long, so it's too long for here. But please do check it out, because I did ask Mickey about the experience of going to Hotspur Way alongside all of the other legends, them speaking to the players, De Zerbi, etc. So please do check that out. Also, we will talk about the transfer window at the end of this show. But it has just been announced by Tottenham Hotspur Football Club that Jed Spence has now officially gone to Inter Milan. And of course, we got the official announcement this morning that Christian Romero has gone to Atletico Madrid. And Romero said his goodbyes on Instagram last night, but we'll talk about that shortly. Dustin, let's come to you. Let's talk about the starting 11 today. Go on, Ricky, what do you want to say?
Oh, no, I was just going to ask you, bro. But I was just going to ask you a quick question. Just that, the legends coming in, and, that being RDZ's idea as well to create that philosophy. How does that make you feel, bro? Because you've seen these things. Like, you've been around, like you say, you've seen the training sessions from every manager that we've had for the last, I don't know how long. Like, how does that make you feel as a supporter that goes home, away, and around the world, bro?
You asking me that question? Look at my arms. Look at those goosebumps. Look at those goosebumps. Does that say it all?
It does, bro. I know.
I feel very positive about things, and it was such a lovely conversation with Mickey earlier, because that togetherness, it needs to come back to this football club, and Spurs are working really hard on this, and it's funny because
identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Identity. We are Spurs. That's it.
Yeah, I haven't spoken about this on the channel yet, but I did have a short conversation with Vinay Venkatesham in Australia, and he basically kept saying to me over and over again that many things at the football club, they are looking to improve. Constantly, they are looking to improve everything. I also had a very short conversation with one of the owners, Viv Lewis, and she said that we will never, ever be in that position again, being so close to relegation. And, from everything that I'm hearing from the club, every staff member that I speak to about certain situations, everything does seem very positive, and they are trying to learn from their mistakes, and they are trying to improve this football club week by week. And like you guys have already mentioned as well about the transfer windows, they know what we need. And I too, like you, Ricky, and I know sometimes you and I can be over positive, and people are frustrated by that, but we live in hope that we are going to get an attacker, a left winger, a striker, someone that can put the ball in the net, someone that can create and shoot us up that Premier League table, because these last couple of years, and also you've mentioned, it has been very, very tough, and we can't be there again. So I do feel very positive about things. Like I've said before many times, Roberto De Zerbi fills me with a lot of confidence. He is always looking to get the best out of players, and the way that we want to play as well. And also talking to Mickey Hazard, he plays the Tottenham way, and that's exactly what we want. We want to be entertained, and I'm sure we will be with Roberto De Zerbi if we get the right players. And we have to be confident that that is going to happen, particularly after the last couple of years that we've had. But like I said, Ricky, I didn't need to talk. My arm's done the talking there. Goosebumps when you asked me those questions. So anyway, Dustin, let me come to you because let's talk about the starting 11 here. Kinski, Robertson, Senesi, Van Hecke, Gallagher, Richarlison, Tell, Gray as captain yet again, Bergvall, Tonali and more. And then the subs today, Austin, Kota Takai, Jamie Donnelly, Tyrese Hall, Hardy, Elliot Paris, Byrne and Adiwal. What did you make of the starting 11 today, and what have you made of the minutes that De Zerbi has given out overall during pre-season?
Well, I think for the starting 11 today, like I said earlier, I think it's one of the first friendlies where you can look at that lineup and go, yeah, I'm happy to start some games like that. I think the only missing piece might be Porro. What I find interesting is the number of minutes given to Gray and the number of captaincies he's gotten over preseason. I think there's a message that De Zerbi is trying to send about making Archie Gray captain this many times. We remember in the previous season where he was talking about possibly giving Kinski the captaincy to give him confidence. So I think that there's something that's being said there to De Zerbi about what he thinks Archie Gray's role is, which is interesting given that if Porro comes back into the team, I don't think Archie Gray starts at right back. So I suspect what De Zerbi is doing is keeping Gray on side with giving him lots of minutes, because he knows that in the coming season there will be a lot of rotation. Not everyone's going to play every single game, even though they might expect to, because we're not in Europe and there are less minutes to share around. But I think that if we're going to make a fist for going for the league, part of it is there are going to be good players that are on the bench. That is how you develop the depth that you need to be able to compete. Rotation is going to be a natural part of the way that we play, and our rotation options coming off the bench need to maintain the standards that the first 11 has. So I think a big part of it is we've seen Robertson as well. We've not really seen Udogi. I think this starting 11 says as much about the depth that we're trying to build, which is this is a starting 11 where you wouldn't necessarily point to that and go, why is this player starting? But we still have many first team players that are not in this starting 11 that will be playing the game tomorrow, for example. Like I said, Van der Ven, Porro, and a bunch of other players as well, including Fernandes. So I think that we are making steps towards building a squad that can truly compete. There's still some missing pieces, clearly on right back, left wing, striker, possibly even right wing, because we don't know what the fitness of Kudus will be like over the length of the season. But just being able to build enough depth to be able to put out an 11 and to, sometimes we sign players and people go, oh, I don't know what happens to the minutes of this other player. But that's the point, right? We should be signing players that bench our existing starting 11, because our starting 11 was 17th for 2 seasons in a row. So we should be signing players that bench them, or at least compete with them and make our formerly first 11 squad players if possible, because that means that we're adding a lot of depth and we're adding a lot of competition for places. And in a team that's doing well, competition for places is a good thing, because everyone wants to get in on the winning team. Competition for places is only a problem if your team is not winning. So the point is, stack the team, make sure that it has depth, and make the competition for places a positive thing, because they all want to get in on the winning team, rather than worry about, oh, will this player, try to leave. We've had players that wanted to leave because they weren't assured of minutes. They've already left. And as sad as I am to see Jet Spence go, despite his good performances, you're not benching Pedro Porro. So I think it's good for his career, but I think that what this means is that everyone that is in the squad, and that's why De Zerbi talks a lot about like commitment. He wants players that want to be here. So we can't have any more Kolomuanis or players like that which aren't completely committed to the club. And that means if you're committed, it means even if you're on the bench waiting for your chance and you're coming on to make a difference, rather than sulking and calling your agent.
Dustin, let's stay with you. Let's go through the match instance now. So it was a very bright start from Spurs. After 3 minutes, Mikey Moore with a good cross, which was blocked. A couple of minutes later, good flick from Matisse Tell to Andy Robertson. Good cross. No one in the box to score. A minute later, Mikey Moore with a shot. That was also blocked. Cross then from the left. Bergvall couldn't get there. After 10 minutes, good pressing from Tell and Bergvall to win the ball back. And I've written down here again, and I've written down this quite a few times today. Kinski, good footwork. I just want to talk a little bit about Anthony Kinski because, like I said, the episode away at Atletico Madrid, and I know Ricky's spoken about this at length on this show. Many people would have thought that was his career done. would never ever wear this Tottenham Hotspur shirt again, and now he's made this number 1 shirt his own. Roberto De Zerbi seems to have a lot of confidence. When you look at the games, at the back end of last season, you could say we would have been relegated without the key saves from Antonin Kinski. But like I've mentioned, over the summer, it seems to be a very, very confident Antonin Kinski now.
100%. I think that the most impressive thing about Kinski was literally his debut against Liverpool, where you had Diogo Jota breathing down his neck, and he just lobs it into the air and catches it. Like, rest in peace. And I think that the whole idea of Antonin Kinski is that he is a goalkeeper that basically you'd be comfortable with him playing central midfield. And that's a credit to his comfort on the ball, his ability and what the Spanish call pausa, which is controlling tempo and looking at where the opportunities to pass are, looking at open teammates, his range of passing, especially mid-range passing, where he can chip it over defenders or people that are pressing him onto the fullbacks. I think that we knew last season, even from the few minutes that he got, not last season, but the season before that, when we first brought him because of Vicari's injury, from those games, we already saw what his distribution looked like. There were times that he looked a bit ropey on shot stopping, and the convention then was like, okay, Kinski's great at distribution, but Vicario is better at shot stopping. And I think that we just hadn't seen him get acclimatized to the league and to the speed of play and things like that. But I think that in the games that he came in last season, we saw his maturity. We saw that he had gotten to grips with what the league was like. He doesn't seem bigger than Vicario, but he's more comfortable on set pieces and coming and commanding his box than Vicario does, which is impressive. So from that perspective, we always knew he was a better distributor, but we're now starting to see that he also has the shot stopping, he has the anticipation. The only weakness I saw last season was that there were times that his footwork meant that he had a longer distance to dive, or sometimes he was out of position, but he seems to have worked that out already. I haven't seen a recurrence of the bad footwork that sometimes led to him conceding goals last season. So all in all, I think that the goalkeeping coaches can take a lot of credit for his improvement. And right now, what we're seeing is that in a De Zerbi system, Kinski is very key because a lot of it comes from the ability to break the press, and that comes from our centre backs that are able to make 2 passes. But it also comes from our goalkeeper, because there's nothing better at goading people to press you than a goalkeeper that's got studs on the ball and is so comfortable that there was one part, I think, in the second half where the striker was pressing and blocking his pass to the left wing, and what he does, okay, fine, I'll carry it then. And you're talking about basically a goalkeeper carrying as if he's a deep line centre back or playmaker that's willing to carry the ball to make a space for himself and then find a better position to pass from. So from that perspective, I think Kinski, he's always been a good distributor, but now we're seeing that he's got the shot stopping chops to be our first choice goalkeeper.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dustin, that he doesn't just get rid of the ball very quickly. If he wants to hold on to the ball and wait for the right pass, he certainly does that. And I've noticed huge differences in Antonin Kinski's game, particularly with his footwork. And you could see in the training sessions that De Zerbi has worked on that, a lot with the goalkeepers. Orchy, let's come to you. After 15 minutes, Hoffenheim, good build-up, cross from the left-hand side, no one was there. A minute later, another good move from them. They shot over the bar, and then a minute later, good move from them again, and they hit the crossbar. Now, on 23 minutes, there was applause from the crowd because Spurs are playing out from the back. And as you guys have already mentioned, one-touch passing. And this is exactly what we want to see.
Exactly. Yeah, it's To be honest, I mean, just touching on the starting 11 as well, I was really happy to see Senesi, because he's a player that I was really excited that we signed as a backup, because we all knew that most likely Romero was going to be going, and thank goodness he's, thank you for his, but he, we won't go into too much about him. So I was really excited, because I think probably most likely when he's fit, is probably going to be Van Hecke and Van der Ven as first choice. Although Senesi himself, he came for free, but he has some of the best stats for last season as a defender. So I was really excited that we got him in as well, and this was a chance for him to partner Van Hecke, and especially if Van der Ven isn't ready to start from next weekend. And I mean, even from the start of the match, you could see the patterns of play. You can see the way in which clearly, the way De Zerbi has drilled on. No player was holding on to the ball too much. The movement of other players who didn't have the ball, providing options, and just everything just seemed to be. Like every player seemed to know what they should do, player who has the ball and players who didn't have the ball. And it's very much creating options. Even when you saw certain passes going to a certain player, there was always another player available that the ball also could have gone to. So, I mean, it's just, I can just wax lyrical about what a difference this match showed.
Just wanted to interrupt and add something to what you're saying. The thing about Berival as well is that, when Berival looked like he was going to go, it was because he tended to take more touches on the ball. But I think what we've seen is he's been coached by De Zerbi to not do that in specific areas of the pitch, which is his biggest weakness. When he took too many touches when he was deep between the centre backs, and sometimes he'll lose the ball and we would concede from there. So I think De Zerbi has said, you're staying, you'll get minutes if you follow what I do. So I think that's a very good observation that you made there.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was going to touch on as well, because I mean, I'm also really happy, like that talk of him asking for a move and wanting to move has pretty much disappeared. I haven't heard anything about him going to another club for weeks now, which is great, because we want to keep someone like Bergvall. I mean, as I mentioned, I mentioned the obvious ones like Kudus, Porro, Fernandez, obviously our second big transfer of this summer so far. They didn't feature, but let's not forget Bentancur. Let's not forget Sarr. These are also good squad players, and they do provide quality to this team. And so, I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep all of them. I mean, I think I saw some talk on potentially maybe Sarr going. Again, touching on Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore, so far, until today, I hadn't been really impressed with him in preseason so far. But today, he was brilliant. He was great. And that could be as a result of, obviously, more of the first-team players were around him. So, as we all know, if you've got good quality players around you, they bring up your game. And we haven't even talked about him. Tell was fantastic today. It's like, he put in a kind of performance where he was literally, with his actions, with his play, he was telling De Zerbi, what left winger? You don't need a left winger. I'm here. This is my position. This is, I'm your man. So, and it's brilliant to see, again, so positive. He looked on it today. Now, by the way, that doesn't, people don't start reacting. No, I still think we need to definitely sign another left winger. We need to sign a striker. I'm not saying let's not sign anybody, but, Tell, this is what I'm saying. De Zerbi's got everybody fired up, the whole team. Clearly, you can see that there's a really positive vibe in that team, and they're all cracking. They can't wait to get started, and they can't wait to show what they can do for this manager in this, type of gameplay. I saw several interviews. I mean, you mentioned your interview with Mickey Hazard. I did watch that, Chris. And also I've seen a couple of interviews with other players. And I know this is all kind of pre-season media stuff, but still, every single, when you see, you can, the cynical people will say, yeah, the club tell them what to say and what to, but every single one of them, they've got a sparkle in their eye. They're all talking about how fun it is, how much they're enjoying. who was it I saw today? After somebody was talking. Oh yeah, they were talking to Tell. Immediately after the game on Spurs Play, they were interviewing Tell. I don't know if you saw it, but one of the things that he said was there's a different energy. He said the big difference between last year and this year is the energy, and you can tell like there's you just can't help feel happy and excited. I mean, we're getting this excited as fans. I mean, I can just imagine on a day-to-day basis, those guys are definitely that energy that's been injected into them is going to count for a lot.
Can I tell you what, Orchy, what I've seen a lot of? Whenever Roberto De Zerbi is talking, he has the attention, 100% attention of every single person who is listening, and everyone listens to exactly what he wants. I'm absolutely fascinated every single time that De Zerbi is talking to a squad player, whether it be someone on the bench, whether it be someone starting. Whenever he talks, he has their 100% attention, and I absolutely love that because it's funny. Every interview that I've seen or read of any ex-player that has played under De Zerbi, they always say that they learn such a lot from him, and you can see it a mile away. And I think that is a big difference. Anyway, let's move on. Ricky, let's come to you. After 25 minutes, Bergvall with a long-range shot, goalkeeper saved it. A minute later, there was a penalty call. It didn't come on Senesi. Then we had the hydration break, a little bit, a few moans in the crowd. De Zerbi working his magic again, talking to many players about what he wants from this Tottenham Hotspur 11. On 30 minutes, Mikey Moore with a good cross in. Tell and Richarlison couldn't quite get there. And then the first goal of the game come after 35 minutes with Richarlison, a left-footed strike after a wonderful move. Tonali, Robertson with a great cross and a great finish from Richarlison. Ricky, do you want to talk us through the first goal?
I mean, what a first goal. Firstly, it was a goal born out of De Zerbi football. Exactly in the style in which he wants to score our goals. The touch that Tonali took to take it away from the Hoffenheim player to get the move started was sublime. And then he's given it to Robertson, who I thought, again, it was so good to see him today at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on our grass, playing the way that he does, because you can see his first time crosses are so on the money. They're pinpoint. They're in dangerous positions. They're not obvious crosses. They're not. It comes in a place where really and truly Robertson should take a touch and then cross. And that's what we've seen, throughout the Premier League years for years, But with him, it's almost he takes it on the half bounce and he crosses it and he gets such a whip on it that it just becomes a dangerous ball. And it was on a plate for Richarlison to put away. And that's what was really good to see. For us to play the ball, firstly, through the middle, to create those triangles, to create those overlaps, to get a dangerous, unfearful cross in there, not worried about the counter, not worried about anything else, just getting it to your man, and then our number 9 putting it away. There was so much to be impressed with as well during that first half. When you look at some of the players, like you say in there, Dustin, as well, about like Senesi and Van Heck, there was times where they pushed Bergvall away. They're like, no, don't worry, we've got it. Like, we'll find the cross, we'll find the ball, we'll make the next thing happen. It's all right, you can go back up the field. I loved to see that. And then Bergvall, like you were saying there, Orchy, as well. Like, Bergvall had a new pep in his step as well. I really like Bergvall. I think he's been forged in fire, the same as Archie Gray. The amount of madness that they've had to go through in their Tottenham careers, but to see Bergie popping it about and turning and being confident, and this is the thing to those young ones in the squad that that are asking for more minutes and want to be more involved. I totally get it, right? I totally understand it. But right now, someone like Archie Gray and Bergvall, they've got two beautifully immaculate, quality, elite footballers in front of them right now where they can learn from and they can compete against. And if you're competing against that level, the bar has been risen for them. It's only going to be good for them if they earn a spot above above £100 million man and an £85 million man. That's fantastic. Do you know what I mean? Because you've earned that spot and you're doing the things that De Zerbi wants to do. So there's loads of good things happening, bro. And to see that type of goal where it was played on the floor, it was a Tottenham goal. It was a Tottenham goal as well. And I think that's why not only us on the panel right now, but everyone around the world and everybody that was in that stadium is feeling those goosebumps, is feeling those tingles, is feeling that electricity that's coming from Tottenham, because you can see we are just starting. This, like I said earlier, this is the baseline. This is the very baseline. We're just starting. Once we get up and running, once we start cooking, my goodness, more of those goals to come.
Dustin, let's come to you on Richarlison. How confident are you that Richarlison can score a hatful of goals? What we expect from a Tottenham Hotspur striker, because we've heard from Roberto De Zerbi in the past week or so saying that he's come out and said sometimes he wants to leave, sometimes he wants to stay. How do you feel about Richarlison? And also, I think it's worth mentioning as well, the small amount of minutes that we've seen from Andy Robertson in the Tottenham Hotspur shirt, the crosses he puts in, I tell you what, he is going to provide a number of assists this season.
I think that so Richarlison divides opinion, right? Because we've just seen too much of how Richarlison's ceiling isn't very high. So I can completely understand why everyone says we still need a striker, because the fitness of Solanke and the first touch of Richarlison are problematic for us. If we intend to build out from the back in the way that we do, and we saw it in this game as well, where we were playing against Hoffenheim. We had the ideal centre backs to be passing and making through balls into the centre, and Richarlison was the striker that they were trying to build up through. He was the one that needed to do the one-touch passes to the wing. And there were certain scenarios where he did it well, but he's still not the ideal striker for, connecting play in that way. We've been spoiled with having Kane doing that for the past, decade or so. And Solanke does it to a slightly better level. But when you have Richarlison who has that first touch, it's a bit harder to rely on him as the main recipient of balls when he's back to goal. So from the perspective of him being a poacher in the box that receives across from Robertson, that's great. But it's his lack of ability to contribute as much in build-up play that will be an issue. So I see that's why we still need a striker. But Richarlison off the bench is definitely a good option to have. A Solanke that's fit, definitely a good contributor. But I don't think that we want to go into a new season with just the two of them, because we're just aware from an injury perspective and that they're both then they can't both do everything. So what happens is that you only have one striker that can be a connector and one striker that's a good aerial box threat, and they can't really do each other's roles well, and they both are injury prone. So from that perspective, it's worrying to go into another season with just the two of them. I don't think there's much you can say about his performance today that you don't expect. You don't expect him to be a good connector of play, but you do expect him to be a good finisher of chances when there's a good cross that comes in. The good thing is that I think that the quality of crossing was improved, especially with Robertson contributing. I'm not convinced that the Hoffenheim defenders will be defending as well as Premier League defenders from crosses. So I take the good crossing we saw this game with a grain of salt, because when you're doing it against Premier League defenders, whether you will necessarily get those chances is a different thing, but you can only face what's in front of you. So Richarlison was he didn't do much except for scoring. There were one-touch passes that he did to bring in the wingers into play that were decent, but again, I'm not sure he gets the time to make those chances against Premier League opposition. So, did relatively well. We still need reinforcements in striker, particularly with injury records, and that they are specific roles that we need more cover for.
Do you know what, Dustin? I've spoke to hundreds of people today, and everyone's been saying exactly the same thing. We need a winger. We need a centre forward. Everyone's been saying exactly the same thing, but we will talk about the transfer window shortly. Orchy, let's come to you. We've spoken about Kinski's footwork. Great punch from Kinski on 42 minutes, and a minute later, he made a really good save to his right-hand side, and then we went in 1-0. Let me ask you about Kinski. What have you made of Kinski, and are you pleased to see now that he is Tottenham's new number one?
Yeah, I know people are going to probably accuse me of jumping on the bandwagon, but I didn't actually. If you remember, Kinski actually had a period where he was our goalkeeper when Vicario got injured. And I think he did actually really well before. And then, when Vicario came back, he automatically went back to being the number one, because fair enough, he's our number one keeper. But I think even in that short period, he did really well for us. And I was really impressed by him. And then obviously much later on, last season, he got his chance again. And that game against, obviously, the European game, he did what he did. But then, all credit to him. He came back really strong from that. A lot of players, it just shows how much confidence and how much belief that he had in himself. That he didn't just, kind of disappear and die. He came back, and I think the second time around, he definitely, like some of you guys mentioned earlier, some of his saves, ensured that we either got the draw or the win in those last 7 games. So he was definitely very, very important for our survival last season. I think he very much deserves, after especially making those 2 terrible mistakes and getting substituted in the first half. Not a lot of players would come back from that kind of situation, and he just showed his belief, his strength, his character, and he came back with a bang, and he's definitely, he deserves a lot of credit for keeping us up. Definitely De Zerbi deserves a lot of credit, but he's one of the players that ensured that we stayed up last season, with his saves, and his reaction is just incredible. He's like, especially even when he's got players and there's situations going on right in front of him, the speed at which he can get down or stop shots or turn shots around is really fantastic. And I think it's definitely better than Vicario. And he just seems to have a lot more command of the area, from like corners, from free kicks. I mean, of course, he's gonna make mistakes. He's gonna let in the odd goal, but our defense just looks more solid, and he seems a lot more confident. I think Dustin touched on it just literally at the end of I think it was either the first half or the beginning of the second half. He kind of, his option for passing to the left to Robertson was blocked, and he kind of just, did a bit of footwork, went around the player and kind of let the ball out into midfield. And it was brilliant. I was like, I was clapping, I was smiling when that happened. So these are all things that we haven't seen for a long time. So, and it's going to be important because De Zerbi's, again, style of play is very much having command of that defense and coming out with confidence. And it's not just about the defenders. It's very much, they've got to play as a unit. They've got to know, again, where they need to be, what they need to do. And that seems to be something that's definitely, flourishing in terms of Kinski. But he's definitely, I think he's already done really well, but I think there is still room for improvement, for development. So if he's this good now, just imagine him like in the seasons, like during the rest of the season, for next season and the next couple of seasons. basically he could end up being another Lloris. I can see him being another Lloris type of goalkeeper for us, staying with us for a very, very long time and potentially, winning more, winning silverware with us. But yeah, I really like him. He seems confident. He knows, he sees the dangers. His decision making is really good. He knows when to come out of his area. He knows when to stay back. Like what I've seen of him so far, including sort of end of last season, is brilliant. I'm really happy he's our number one. And great that we got someone like Dubravka in as well. He played in a couple of the preseason games, and he's another goalkeeper. Obviously, he's older, he's more senior, but he's very experienced, and he still seems to, still have his wits. He still seems to have, So I think we've got a really solid pairing this season for our goalkeeper options. I'm again, it fills me with a lot of confidence.
Orchy, don't mind if I add something to what you said. I think the most valuable thing of what Kinski does, especially when he kind of like he fakes a player out and moves a player, and then he does something else, is that when you play against a keeper like that, or a centre back, or a deep line playmaker like that, where they manipulate your position just by moving their body shape, and then you try to cut off a passing lane, and then they make you look stupid. The best part about players like that is that they create so much space, and they actually make opposition give up pressing them, which gives them even more space to damage the opposition with their passing. So I think that Kinski's comfort on the ball isn't just, from the ability of like being able to pass, being able to find the man, but it's actually the biggest benefit I see from it is demoralizing the opposition. If you're already dominating a game and you've got this goalkeeper and these centre backs that can make these kinds of passes, it gets to a point where a team may have the instruction from the coach to press, but they're like, how am I going to press this goalkeeper? And they give up. And then they sit back more. And then we have the dominance to then control more of the ball, peg them into their half. They don't even get into our half. And we now have a keeper and the right centre back combinations to be able to do that.
Ricky, let's come to you. Of course, at half-time it was 1-0 Tottenham, and 6 minutes into the second half, Kinski saved to his right-hand side, so another good save from him. On 51 minutes, Hoffenheim with a shot wide. On 53 minutes, the crowd were shouting to Matisse Tell to shoot. He did, which was over the bar. And I might add that the ball into Matisse Tell was from Marcos Senesi. So we've already spoken a little bit about, we've got ball-playing centre-backs, and I think that there is a lot more to come this season, and that does excite me as well. Now, Ricky, let's go straight in on the 58th minute, because Richarlison shot over the bar, and then shortly after, Mikey Moore made it 2-0. But what fantastic work it was from Matisse Tell. Now, Matisse Tell, Ricky, the last couple of years we've spoke a lot about Matisse Tell, really tough start to his Spurs career. But, this pre-season, I think it's fair to say that Matisse Tell is probably the standout player for this pre-season so far.
And, Matisse came into this side at a really difficult time, after not having a lot of football at Bayern. And slung into the deep end when we was decimated with injuries under Ange. And then you start to play football in quotation marks under Thomas the Fraud. And it sucked him and the rest of this squad of all the heart and the life and the energy. But every time he came onto the field, especially last season, he came on and tried to make something happen. I've been a backer of Tell. It's been a tough couple of seasons for him. He was brought in to a squad that was asking for a striker at the time, and then we brought in this left winger, but they were saying playing striker, and under the Fraud, he was every time that he done something good in the side, he came out of it. I think I remember him scoring the first open play goal in 10 hours or 10 games or something like that under Frank. And the next game he was out, and he didn't get in the Champions League squad. But every single time that we asked him to come back, he came back in and try to do something. And that's where some of the gents were talking about earlier. You know, now that we have a structure, we're getting to see the best of Matisse right now. But a lot of things that happened last year was that players were playing individually. They were trying to make things happen individually, off their own back, by themselves. Conor Gallagher was trying, you know, Tell was one of those that were trying to do things by himself, because for the first half of the season, our whole game went through Kudus. So it was like one player at a time. And Matisse was always there. Do you know what I mean? And he was always there to, whether he had a good performance or a bad performance, he was there to be counted, and he was there to put everything on the line for Tottenham. There were times when the crowd, you know, I remember the crowd, there was a couple of times where the crowd were having a go at the boys. And Matisse was one of those, when he was on loan and when he was signed as well, that was one of those that went into the crowd and was like, guys, look, we need you. Like, you know, and he faced up to it, bro. And I love that about him. And this preseason, he has looked like a man on a mission. He has been one of the most impressive players throughout the preseason, but he is a man on a mission. I think, you know, Orchy was right there where he's going, boss, I'm here. Do you know what I mean? I'm here. You know, and every time he gets an opportunity, he is looking to take it. And that's all we've asked. Chris, many a time that we've asked for our young ones or those that are quote unquote in the B team, that when you do step in, come in, take your chance, come in, do something. You know what I mean? Come in, give us everything that you've got. Come in and make the manager have a sleepless night over selection. Like, yeah, and Matisse is doing that right now. And with a manager that believes in attacking football, structured football, but attacking football, we're seeing the best out of him right now. We're seeing the best out of him. Again, because we're not relying on one player, and we're not streamlined to one tactic. Let's get a throw in. Let's get a free kick. Let's get a corner. You know, we're not limited to that no more. You can see him like have more confidence, but also be allowed to express himself, to go out there and make something happen. And today there was many a time. One of the things, look, both assists I think were fantastic, absolutely top notch, right? But there was times where the way that he slowed down his own pace. His change of pace is what I'm going for. The way that he slowed down his own pace while running with the ball, and then went into a quick sprint and then slowed it back down again, and then quick feet and then tiki-taka. It was fantastic to see. So I'm really happy for Matisse. People forget how old that boy is. He's still a young boy. You know, this is the season I think that we're going to see who Matisse Tell is, because he's been in the league a couple of seasons now. He's gone through hell and brimstone to get to this point. So right now, with a structured team, a lot higher quality of players, we're actually playing forward. You know, there's more than one danger man. There's more than one worry in the team for the opposition. I think we're going to see more impressive performances from Matisse in this side.
Can I just add something there, just on what you were talking about, Ricky? What I loved is obviously he set up, you know, he assisted in 2 goals, and the 2 assists were, it looked similar, but they were actually quite different. What I liked in the first assist, he actually beat 2 players before going to the line and then, you know, passing it through. And what I loved was Mikey Moore saw his movement and he kind of anticipated, and Mikey Moore beat his defender. He moved into position to finish that off, and that was the first way. What I loved about the second one was that it wasn't him beating a couple of plays. He went around the player, and then from the corner of his eye, Mikey Moore made a run, and he did something brilliant. He used his right foot. He almost passed the ball with his right foot onto his left foot, and with his left foot, he it was kind of like a through ball in front of Mikey Moore, which then Moore ran onto, went around the, you know, defender and just put the ball, and he didn't like smash it. He almost like passed it into the opposite side of the goal and scoring that way. So both assists were different, but they showed again his skill in different levels. He's good at he can beat players. All right, it was Hoffenheim. It wasn't a competitive match, but still, you can only beat what's in front of you. He had the confidence to try get past two players and then see, and he looked up. He didn't just, without even looking up. I love the fact that he beat two players, looked up, saw where Mikey Moore was, and puts in a very good, accurate ball in for, and anyone could have actually finished that off the way he put it in there.
But that was born on the training field, right? That's born on the training field. That comes from the structure. That comes from the manager. The fact that he had the thought to let me look up, let me see who's over there. It's because the structure is now being in a way that he knows that somebody's going to be there. Where how many times last season Orchy did he make a run and he was by himself? I was still waiting. I'm still, when the camera doesn't even catch up, I'm waiting for Richie to turn up or somebody to turn up. And Matisse was out there by himself many a time. So you can see the work that's been doing on the training field. And that's another reason why I'm not too worried about not seeing some of the, Kudus, for instance, or Madison right now. The fact that their injuries and their recovery and their comeback is being managed, because we want them in competitive games. But what I'm really encouraged about is that the amount of work that they are doing in training, we can see it, bro. And that's both of those goals were born out of the training.
Yeah. He's clearly, I've even watching some of the training videos, like you said, Ricky, he goes through it over and over and over. He goes right, if the ball is here, if the player is here, I want you to be in that position. I want you to cover that area. I want you to run into this area, and I want an option on this side. And he's in exactly what you said. He's drilling into them the kind of, his football, basically, his philosophy of, where he wants the players, where he wants, how the channels to work and how the players, what, the options. And that is, if you get the way to beat teams is obviously when we're in possession to have various options. If they can't get the ball off you, then you're going to dictate the game, and his game is very much dictating the game. But I think me and Dustin had conversations in the group about this. There's going to be teams where we're going to dominate, but there's also going to be teams where maybe we're not going to be able to quite play that game. But then he's got options for that as well. And that's why he's brought in the type of players that he's brought in. Of course, we still need more, and I'm sure we're going to touch on that. But in the squad, we have options with the type of players that we have. We need more, but certainly we're a lot better than where we were in the last number of seasons, I would say. So all of it, again, it's just exciting stuff. It's really positive.
Orchy says there, we need more. Now, do we need Mikey Moore for this season, Ricky? Very quickly, should we keep Mikey Moore, or should he be sent out on loan? And the other one here, from Kate and Jimbo, Tut, Ricky always having a go at Richie. Now, I did send you a video link yesterday, Ricky, to Richarlison hitting one in the top bins. Now, not everyone can hit top bins, can they, Rick?
No. But you see, the difference is that Richie didn't do it with the robo keeper. Do you know what I mean? It was an empty plastic goal from Argos. And do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to... There's levels to this game is all I'm going to say. Do you know what I mean? There's levels to this game. Mikey Moore, I think, is a fantastic player. I would love him. It's difficult. I would love him to go on loan, mate. I want him to have first team football week in, week out, and really grow, and next year be the year. But you can see that I think De Zerbi likes him. He is bulked up. He looks a lot taller. He looks a lot wider. He did not shy away from any challenge, and I think that's a benefit of being up in Scotland as well. He must have got hacked many a time up in that league, and for him to start understanding how to react to challenges and to improvise around them and keep that ball moving. He done that a couple of times today. There is quality in that boy from top to toe. And if he was one that stayed with us for this season, my only hope would be is that with 5 subs, there ain't no excuse not to bring him on and for him to start getting games if he is here. But I would love him to go and get first team football for one more year, have that development shoot up again, and for next year for him to come in and really kind of take a place in this side.
Dustin, let's come to you. On 61 minutes, Hoffenheim had another shot over the bar. On 63 minutes, Mikey Moore involved again, crossing into the box. Then another hydration break, moans again from the crowd. But as I mentioned earlier, Roberto De Zerbi talking a lot to Antonin Kinski. Hoffenheim chance, Kinski saved yet again, this time with his legs on 72 minutes. Hoffenheim with a shot over the bar on 73 minutes. I've got to say, Hoffenheim were quite wasteful with their chances. I know they did force a number of saves from Kinski, but they did hit a lot wide and a lot over the bar. Kinski with a good punch away from a corner. Then on 78 minutes, Tell with a good run, shot at the goalkeeper. And then, Dustin, talk us through the third goal, again finished by Mikey Moore.
Yeah, third goal is basically a great run from Tell, who carries into the left half space. And he keeps baiting the pressure until an opportunity opens up for Mikey Moore. Then he slips Moore in for a great goal into the bottom left-hand corner. So it was a great night for Moore in general. I think that what we saw was a lot more of what he can do on the right wing. We had previously mostly played him on the left. And I suspect that when you play him on the left, he favors cutting in a lot more. And against certain kinds of teams, Moore has bulked up a lot, but he's still not necessarily of the build that you would necessarily cut into the center of most Premier League defenses and still dominate the ball and maintain possession. I think that he's still, as much as he's built up himself up, he's still small enough to be pushed off the ball. We saw a lot of that in him before he went out on loan in Scotland. So I think Scotland's helped him bulk up a little bit. But overall, I would say that he performed a lot better on the right because a lot of it was more about his ability to make space for himself, his ability to run into areas, his ability to catch his defenders by blindsiding them. So Moore's best attribute is his ability to look at space and make runs. And while he is a good dribbler, in the Premier League, he will just get shoved off the ball by larger centre-backs. So I think that the best way to make the most of Moore is to play him in scenarios where his ability to run into space is being maximized, as opposed to expecting him to dribble against Premier League defenders, because I think that that's still a stretch for him. As for the earlier conversation about whether we should send him out on loan, I think that the challenge with that is he going to get enough minutes? Because a big part of why we're seeing such progression from him is the number of first team minutes that he got in Scotland. And if he's going to get less minutes, it's actually stalling his development. So as much as we would like Mikey Moore to be at the club, and it's always great to be able to sing, he's one of our own. I think that for his development, if he's going to stay, he should be staying as a first team player. But I think that we accept that having Mikey Moore as your first team player isn't the first team player you want for a team that is going to be challenging for the Champions League. He may get there in the future. He's not there right now. And what I want, and it's not because I don't like Moore, it's because I like him too much for his development to stall. So he should get a loan, and that loan should give him lots of first team minutes, preferably in a team that plays a similar system to us. And then he comes back, fully fledged, ready to fight for his place. I think that we just don't have enough minutes because we don't have Europe this season for him to get enough first team minutes, and we shouldn't stall his development. So I would say send him out on loan, not because I don't like him, because I like him too much for him not to get first team minutes.
Dustin, staying with you, 10 minutes from time, De Zerbi made 4 subs. Senesi, Gallagher, Moore and Richarlison all coming off. And Hardy, Tyrese Hall, Elliot Paris and Adiwal all coming on. Now, what have you made of the time that De Zerbi has given a number of the development players during this pre-season, and how confident are you that we will start seeing more development, more players coming through to the first team this season and beyond?
Sorry, I didn't hear whether you were asking me or someone else.
Yeah, you, Dustin. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that he's given the development players lots of first team minutes in preseason because they're unlikely to get it in the rest of the season. So I think that while we would love to see more development players make it to the first team, we have too much money now. All Premier League teams have too much money now. So rather than promote their youth team players, they would rather buy a younger player of the similar age profile but with tons more minutes from Europe, import them and pay them in first team. So first, like youth team players being promoted to the first 11 is going to be an increasingly rare occurrence. I think that the reason we played a number of them in these preseason games is to put them in the shop window for loans, such that loan clubs can have a look at them against high-level opposition and go, yes, I'll take this player on loan, and then we get to shop them around, improve their development. Maybe they come back as a more finished article or close to the finished article as a squad player, or maybe we sell them on. I think we're getting a little bit better at selling players. We had a period where youth team development came to Tottenham to die. They would come here, they would not get minutes, they would get bad loans out, and then they just leave because it's better for their careers. I think we're getting a bit better at that now. There are a couple of players I would like to see. I would like to see more of. I'd like to see more from Malachi Hardy. I'd like to see more from Oluseyi, even though he's injured now. Tyler Tingy didn't get much minutes, but when he was on, the crispness of his passing really impressed me. So there are a couple of youth team players that I think, and Luka Williams-Sabane, everyone knows about. So he needs a good loan, either to an upper, either a championship club that will get promoted or to a lower half Premier League team. I think more likely championship, but I think that there are lots of players from the academy, from the youth team that we can look forward to progressing. I don't think they get first team minutes just because there aren't enough minutes to go around.
So after 86 minutes, there was a back pass to Kinski, and he had the confidence to go past a Hoffenheim player. This is the incident that you were talking about earlier. Then Roberto De Zerbi made a fifth sub of the game, Donnelly coming on and Bergvall going off. There is a lot of talk at the moment about Donnelly possibly returning to Leyton Orient for a season-long loan. Let's wait to see what happens on that one. And then on 88 minutes, a good punch from Kinski from a corner. Orchy, let's come to you. Before we talk about transfers, let's mention Sandro Tonali. We haven't spoken much about Sandro Tonali. We haven't spoken much about Conor Gallagher today. What did you make of their performances?
I thought they were solid. You know, a lot of things obviously went through Tonali. For the first goal, it was pretty much Tonali that actually started it off. You know, he passed to Robertson, first time cross into Richarlison. He was solid, and I like the fact that he got 90 minutes today. So that shows that his fitness is up there. He's ready to start matches for us immediately from the start of the Premier League. Yeah, I mean, he really bossed the midfield. He was pretty much, he was in that central area. He was everywhere, but he was also supporting, you know, behind the winger, whether it was, you know, Robertson and Tell going forward. He was kind of just off them, supporting them both on the left and the right. He was kind of everywhere really. And I think both he and Bergvall worked really well today. A lot of the times either Tonali or Bergvall will fall back, collect the ball from defense, and start patterns of play. But yeah, I mean, Tonali just, it just goes to show, that's why he's a 100 million player. He's come in, he's adapted, he is intelligent, he reads the game really well. And, a lot of the good chances that we had today, and even the goals, a lot of them, it kind of originated from his distribution, to whether it was going through the channels through the middle or distributing it out. But even when he was distributing out to the wings, it was always like kind of forward passes, and they were always creating those triangles between him, Bergvall. I mean, Bergvall again worked really, really hard while he was on that pitch. Clearly, wanting to put his case forward as a potential starter for next week, especially if Fernandes isn't fit. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show there are players that they have so much quality that when they go into, like, he just slotted into that central midfield position, that he then brings up the quality of all the players around him, because of the way he reads the game, his passing, his distribution, and even sometimes anticipating. So when, for example, the ball got turned over and Hoffenheim players were kind of attacking, there were many times where we won the ball back, and he was very much involved in that. So he was tackling. So it wasn't just his passing; he was tackling. He was reading the game, and yeah, I think he had a really, really solid performance today, and he pretty much bossed that midfield, and elevated the players around him for sure.
Ricky, finally on the game itself, what do you make of our back line today, particularly Archie Gray? Because Archie Gray, of course, has been captain throughout this whole pre-season. Where do you see him fitting in? Because De Zerbi has come out and said on a couple of occasions recently, saying about he needs to find his position. I've been saying this on the podcast for a long time now. What also do you make of Van Hecke today, Senesi today? And of course, Andy Robertson we've touched on a little bit already, but defensively from Spurs today, what did you make of us?
I think defensively we was pretty solid. We kept our line and our shape. I think Archie Gray ain't a right back. It's not his position. I don't think he likes it. I don't think we like him there as fans. But it's not like he done anything wrong. He done a good job today. He done well. There's nothing that I can say that he was terrible at, or he let a guy through, or anything like that. It was a good performance, but I don't think that's his position whatsoever. And he does need to establish himself. I say he needs to, but the manager needs to let him establish himself in the center of midfield. But right now, I think it's all about minutes for him and getting in the team. You can see the maturity of Archie. You can see that he is a fantastic player. He's a team player. He has played along that back line for us as well. Centre back, right side, and left back. So he's played along there. And okay, all right. So he done well today. I think he's going to be able to express himself when he gets moments in that midfield. I think him and Bergvall should be the alternate, like the number two options to come in or off the bench for Fernandes and Tonali. I thought Van Hecke, commanding, communicator, demanding. There was a warm up before the game. And it was just him and Senesi, and all they were doing was passing from left foot to left foot, right foot to right foot, left foot to left foot, right foot to right foot. And just that alone, and having a conversation at the same time, and just that alone, being able to understand the touch of your centre-back partner, to be able to have an understanding of communication, to be to just start building that. I really like Van Hecke, and I think that him being a disciple, a son of De Zerbi, is another fantastic thing that we've done here. And if you look at this squad that we're building, we're actually building relationships. So, Orchy spoke about Dubravka earlier, but the fact that he doesn't come too far away from where Kinsley comes from, and he's an older, experienced goalkeeper, is fantastic for Kinski, because Kinski and him, they're going to have almost like an uncle nephew relationship almost, somebody that you can look up to, somebody that you can ask advice for, but they're building that relationship there. Van Hecke and Van der Ven used to play in under 21s for the Dutch national team. So they've got a little bit of an understanding already as a centre-back partnership. But of course, they've played for the national team at the World Cup as well. So there's a bit of a relationship happening. You look at Fernandes and Pedro Porro, both at Porto. Then you look at Tonali, who is another disciple of De Zerbi, and somebody who is going to execute his plan from top to bottom. The thing is with Tonali is is again, his work rate is phenomenal, but he has got direction. He knows he's not just passing it sideways and backwards to hold on to it. It's always with a plan. It's always to free up somebody. It's always to move that ball forward. It's always to get us going again. So, but him being a disciple, and then you look at the guys that we're linked with bringing in as well, the connection with Xavi and the teams. So we are building relationships all the way through. But having a Robertson in there who has won everything in domestic football, it's the level of standards that they've risen right now. So there is so many good things happening. So to see Van Hecke and Senesi together, a right-footed centre back and a left-footed centre back pairing together, new centre backs, creating a relationship. I thought it was really well. Like they understood each other, really well for it being an early relationship. There was a point when Van Hecke ran and pressed the goalkeeper. He ran halfway up the field, and Senesi knew what to do and how to cover. So fantastic. And then Robertson and Tell, they're building a relationship as well. But for me, I think Robbo, look, man, he is an experienced guy. There's nothing that I don't think he's gone through. So a lot of his job was pretty comfortable, but he has immense quality in that left boot of his. I was saying earlier when you was traveling down from inside to outside of the stadium, Chris, that it's his first time crossing. Some of the times that he crosses, normally another left back or a winger would probably take that extra touch, push it on, and then go for the cross, where he will have let it bounce once, and then almost on a half volley, almost on the instep, he'll get it in there, and that's a dangerous ball. So the back line, including Kinski, who was again communicating left, right, and centre, he ain't shy, and when I saw him shouting, unlike Vicaria, who just shouted at Bergvar. But he was shouting as an organizer to make sure that if somebody was out of position or out of step, he was calling them back in. And the communication back as well. There was a point where Kinski done a move and he passed it out to Orchy, and Orchy wasn't ready for it. And so Orchy shouted back, he's like get it into midfield at that point. Like that must have been something that they had worked on previously, where that move should end up in midfield, and he ended up passing it to Orchy, and then it goes out for a throw-in. So we're building relationships right now. We're building brotherhoods. And to see that back line, which ain't our finished back line. It ain't our finished back line. It's almost the second string back line, isn't it, right now? Go on, Orchy.
Well, what I was going to say was obviously Porro is going to be the first choice right back anyway.
Absolutely, right?
And probably when Van de Ven is fully fit, I would imagine Van Hecke and Van de Ven are going to be partnering up. And I would imagine, because I think there's some question marks over the fitness of Udogie, because obviously we haven't even spoken about Udogie. But I would personally, last season, I wasn't very impressed with Udogie. Udogie was another player, like a number of our players, and we spoke in last season's shows where, a lot of whether it was the right back or the left back or in the right wing, even Kudus was doing this when he was fit. They were just running, and then just not knowing what to do. And then they would just either get tackled or they would lose the ball and the team would counter us. Whereas but
a lot of that had to do with the fraud, bruv. And we can clearly see that.
That's
do you know
what I'm going to say. Whereas now, obviously, because we have these style, De Zerbi style of play, it's going to be different. But as you said, because of his experience, I would even, if Udogie is fit, I personally would rather start with, that Robertson gets the start, at least at the beginning of the season. And I would love it with his experience and his knowledge that he actually works with Porro and Udogie and whoever else is that we might bring in as a replacement for Spence, to teach them, when to go. And obviously it's going to be in conjunction with how Roberto De Zerbi wants them to play. But essentially, I think Robertson's going to be really key, especially in the defensive duties of, when is a good time to go up. And like you said, when is a good time to not take that touch and catch out, defenses with first-time balls or first-time, balls across the penalty area to create those chances. Because as you say, if you take one extra additional touch and you delay the cross or you delay the cutback, you're giving a chance for the defender to, get into position and block those balls. Whereas, first time passes, first time crosses always catches defenders out. And that's how you create chances. And that's something that Porro needs to be better at as well, because Porro isn't great at that. He's great at running, he's great at attacking, but his final ball last year especially really struggled. It really frustrated me. So I want to see us do better in those kind of positions. And something that I saw interesting, I don't know, Dustin might have picked up on this because he's very tactical. I don't know if you noticed, but there were many times in the game where actually Archie Gray joined the midfield and we ended up with a back three. So we were actually playing with a back three, and Archie actually went in to support, whether it was Tonali or Bergval or or Mikey Moore to actually solidify the midfield so that we didn't get the ball back. But he didn't just stay in right, he wasn't a kind of a conventional right back. And I wonder if that's the kind of system or if that's the kind of play that we're going to see. And it wasn't just specific to Archie Gray. When Porro comes back, probably they're going to be doing that same thing, depending on obviously the opposition and the style of play that De Zerbi is going to pick for whatever they're playing. But yeah, I noticed a lot today. Gray didn't stay at right back. He came very much a lot into midfield.
They all interchange, bro. They all interchange. But the greatest thing about Robertson is that he sets a bar for Udogie. Udogie's never had to have a bar. He was thrown in at the beginning and he's been running to the ground and he's had injury, and then we've been lost at left back. Fantastic that Spence would come in and cover for him, but he never had a bar. Now that Robertson's there's a bar. There's something you've got to achieve. If he can knock it on a sixpence, then you've got to knock it on a sixpence. Do you know what I mean? So now he's got a challenge ahead of him, and I think we're going to see the best of Udogie going forward as well, with him being in the squad.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Ricky, because although some people have gone on about Robertson's age, he can certainly whip a ball into the box. And like I said earlier, I think he's going to provide many assists this season. I was laughing a couple of minutes ago because there was about 10 people going by with Romero flags. So I'm assuming that one of the sellers have given the stock away today. Yeah,
it's exactly what's happened.
Because I know in the last couple of days, when it was heavily put out there that Romero was going to be signing for Atletico Madrid, they reduced the Romero mugs to £4 in the club shop. But I don't think they've got any left. I think they've binned them. Anyway, right, talking about Romero and Jed Spence leaving, because official statements, as I mentioned earlier, have been released today. Now, part of the goodbye message from Romero, and Ricky, I'm going to start with you on this. I'm going to give you guys all the opportunity to talk about Spence and Romero leaving and your memories of them in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. Romero said, and to the fans, thank you for loving me, respecting me, and making me feel like one of you from day one. Thank you for every hug, every song, every flag, every applause, and for always being there. I know I wasn't perfect, but one thing gives me peace. I always gave everything. I defended this shirt with pride and all of my heart. Thank you for everything. I'm leaving the football club, but a part of me and my heart will always remain here. Now, Jed Spence, in the last couple of hours, has said a special chapter comes to an end. It's been some journey with plenty of memories, moments and experiences that I will carry with me forever, especially that night in Bilbao. Thanks to the staff members who have helped me along the way, the players who have become family, and most importantly, thank you to the fans. Time for a new chapter now, but Spurs will always have a place in my heart. Ricky, what do you make of the departures of Jed Spence and Christian Romero?
On Romero first, I think firstly it's a classy goodbye. I think it's a heartfelt goodbye. We know how emotional Romero is. I have been a fan of Romero and I've stuck up for him many a time. And you know what? He says it there. At least he admits it. He wasn't perfect, and he wasn't. Last year, I think, was a shambles for a lot of different reasons. There was times where he spoke up for us and said the things that we wanted to say out in public. and he done that, but then he didn't follow it up with outstanding performances. If you're going to speak up, you've got to be outstanding in your performances. And then there was a few performances that dipped, or there was a red card or something, or an injury or something. But you know what? I'm going to choose to remember the good times with Cuti Romero. I'm going to choose to remember that he was full-blooded in every tackle. He did kind of bleed for the shirt in that way. He went through turmoil as well with the amount of managers that we went through, and Daniel Levy and the board, and he had promises that were made to him that wasn't kept with a transfer window like this one, for instance, and pushing the club forward. So it has been a roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster. I'm not going to remember him as the best captain. I think last year was not the greatest, especially as a captain's performance, but I will remember him for the good times and for that final, and for him being on the bus during a parade, drunk out of his nut, wearing 3 different sunglasses and dancing on the stage in front of us while we were standing in plant pots, Chris. So I'm gonna choose to remember those and thank him for the good times. Thank him for when he did give everything, and he was outstanding at times for us. And thank you for that. And you know what? Good luck. And all of this stuff with the Gooners speculation links the last week did put a bitter taste in my mouth. But you know what? I'm going to choose to forget it. And I'm going to choose, because he was so open and honest in his goodbye, I'm going to choose to say, thank you, Cuti, and thank you for the good times, and go be at the club that you should be at. It's a perfect match. It's a match made in heaven. Atletico, the Metropolitano, the Simeone, he's got a lot of Argentinian teammates there as well. The style of football, the weather, it makes sense for Cuti Romero. So go have fun over there. I'm sure we're going to be seeing many eclipses between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid with Romero involved. 100%. On Spency, do you know what? I'm upset. I'm a little bit upset, but I'm with it. Another one that I backed from the beginning. I wanted him in from the beginning, and even when he was called a club signing, I was like, no, and I chose not to believe it. But then it did come out that that's what was said, and da. But he's a fighter, man. He went on how many loans? He had a lot of growing to do as a person, and I think he'd done that. He went to loads of different leagues, and it got to the point where he was at Genoa and we couldn't give him away. I remember it was 8 mil, I think, to buy him at that point. And they were like, no, we want him for 5 or something stupid. So he ended up to come back. And then under Ange, he really did find his flow and he found his way. There was many times that he was our main attacking threat. There was many times that he was our game changer because there was nobody else to bring on apart from Spence. So, again, wasn't perfect. There are things about his game maybe you could criticize, but a lot of the time he tried to give everything for us and try and make something happen on the pitch, whether he's playing left side or right side. So to go to a club where a massive club in Inter Milan, where they can guarantee you first team football, because we can't even do that. We can't guarantee him first team football at left back, let alone right back, where we've got a World Cup winner. So for him to get the move to Inter Milan and go into a massive team and be a starter and have that pressure on him to play week in, week out in the Serie A. Good luck to him. I wish him well. I will be checking out the Serie A highlights on YouTube. And keeping a cheeky eye on him, because he was a fan favorite of mine. He wasn't a perfect player, but he was a fan favorite of mine, and I did enjoy him being at Spurs. But yeah, good luck to you, man. You found a club that wants you, and wants you as a first teamer. Go grab that spot. Go make it yours. Go win and go live life, my friend. So good luck, my friend. Good luck.
Ricky, thanks for mentioning Pedro Porro, because there was a wonderful moment where Fernando Llorente presented Pedro Porro with an award just before the game started. So yeah, that was a great moment. And like you mentioned earlier, it's so nice that so many of these legends or former players have been invited back to the football club, and I bumped into quite a few of them today, and it's nice that they have done that moment again. So yeah, very nice. Dustin, your thoughts on the sales of Romero and Spence?
So I think that our impression of Romero has very much been soured by two incidences. One was him screwing off back to Argentina and not intending to be in the stadium initially for the last game of the season, until his social media manager or someone go, I think that's a bad idea, you better go back. So I think that's something that fans will have never forgiven him for. If the rumors are true that his camps was seeking out the Arsenal move, then I think that he's basically one below Sol Campbell in terms of how we feel about him. But you can't confirm that. So all we have is kind of that incident and his performances. I think that from that perspective, a lot of it was tied up in his availability, right? A player that plays 62% of the games possible for you is insane. For a number of those games to be injury is one thing, but for the number of them to be suspensions is crazy. And that kind of disciplinary record from your captain is unacceptable. So from that perspective, I completely understand why there are some fans that want to see the back of him. That said, he is a passionate player. That passion goes both ways, and it's perfectly fine. And a lot of us were defending him when he was that guy, when all the other teams hated him because of the things that he would do. When he was fully throated COYS, he would have been a favorite player for a lot of us. It's just that he's the pantomime villain now because of those actions. But when he was scoring bicycle kicks, when our strikers were misfiring and he was going and scoring the winning hitters, I think it's very easy to forget all of that. So he was a passionate player. He allowed us to play when we were playing very dominant football under Ange. A combination of him and Van der Ven, with Van der Ven's recovery pace and his aggression at cutting out chances at source by stepping out and making those interceptions or tackles high up the field, that is something that is hard to replace. So we've replaced, his through passing with Senesi and Van Hecke, but we're not replacing kind of the aggression. The other part of Romero that we're not necessarily replacing, and actually, Chris, I actually have a radar up for this. If you can just bring them up for a short second. I think one part that we will not easily replace is aerial dominance. So these are all our centre backs in a little radar here. And you can see that aerial duel is over here. Romero is that's Kevin Danso. But Danso, likely isn't going to be the first centre back on the pitch. So if you take Kevin Danso out of the equation in terms of aerial duels, you'll see that Van Hecke, Senesi, and so you see after taking Kevin Danso, you see aerial duel percentage is one of the gaps we have for our existing centre backs. So realistically speaking, that's one area that we are going to miss Romero from that perspective. The other is that a lot of the aerial duels, not just defensively, but goals that were scored from corners. There was time our set pieces were all go far post to Romero, he hits it back in, someone scores. Hopefully we don't rely on set pieces as much anymore, but we have to look at it objectively and go, these were the areas where Romero did provide leadership, did provide aerial dominance in certain scenarios. But from the perspective of what he did as captain and what he did for the last day of the season, I think that he's kind of tarnished his legacy, and I think it's a pity that he will not be remembered well because of that. Because when he was playing and when he was full-throated COYS, he was one of our best players. For Spence, it's quite a bit of a shame because I think that he's a good player, and I think that he provides he basically provided all of the progression from the back line for Thomas Frank because he was the best carrier of the ball. But I think that he just doesn't fit the way De Zerbi likes to build up, and De Zerbi likes to build up from the defensive block using passes rather than carrying. So one of Spence's greatest strengths is negated. And the other thing that Spence does, and he's a bit underrated in, is one-touch passing within midfield. But then I don't think that that's the way De Zerbi uses his wing-backs as well. So I think it's more of a system mismatch, and he doesn't fit the way that De Zerbi likes his wing-backs to play. So I don't think it's an indictment on his quality as a player. I think it's more that it's just a system mismatch, and that's why he's not going to get the minutes he wants. And with the profile being raised by his performances in the World Cup and the offers that came in, even though they are low offers because we're selling overseas and to clubs that don't have Premier League money, I think that on balance, it's good for his career that he's going to go somewhere where he will play. I will very much miss his sister's vlogs of the games because that was one of the most entertaining things that he provided. But I think that it's good for his career, and I think that as long as we sign cover, because he provided cover for both flanks, which is hard to find. But I think he just doesn't offer what De Zerbi expects out of his wing backs.
And finally, Orchy, with you, because from what we understand, De Zerbi has come out and said, he wants players that want to be here. I agree with Dustin. I think it's a shame about Jed Spence because certainly, the World Cup tournament that he had with England did really, really well. You could argue that he is at the peak now of his career. I don't think many people are too upset about the Romero one.
No, I mean, yes, he's a passionate guy. He's a passionate player. We all know that. Sometimes way too passionate. He lets that boil over too much. And I don't think it was just in recent period where he kind of let us down. I think over the period of his career, he's had a lot of red cards. Even last season when we needed him the most, he got that second red card, which meant that he was, out for an extended period when we needed him the most, So, he's let us down time and time again. And he was a player that even from the beginning, even when he first came into the club, it was almost like he always had this air of like he was too good for Spurs. Like he was almost like doing us a favor by coming and playing for us. I'm a firm believer of action speaking louder than words. It's easy to go on the Spurs channel or other things and say, come on, you Spurs and this and that. But I never really saw him until the last couple of seasons where I never felt that he really truly embraced the club and the team and what it means to be Tottenham, what it means to be Spurs. I think sometimes you can put on that, but I never truly believed it. I never truly it always, I know this is a bit of a cliche, but it always seemed like he cared more about playing for Argentina than he did for Tottenham. Yes, he had some very good games. There were times he would have, good matches and he would be very solid, but then it would be followed up by several matches where he would be not great and he would actually be, it would be his mistake or him losing the player for, letting in a lot of goals. I think we also let in a lot of goals because of him. He might have been good at aerial duels, but, many a times his tackling would be reckless. He would be overly, so I'm happy that I think the time had come for us to part ways. Again, I thank him for his service. I thank him for, what he did with the club. And he certainly, after many years, he won a cup with the team. He won the Europa League. So overall, again, I don't wish anything bad on the guy. I'm sure, down the pub, he's probably a good lad to have a drink with. But, at the end of the day, I agree. I think something since the Poch years, what we had lost was this identity. It's to be proud Spurs player, to really, embrace what the club is, the history of the club, what it means to be Tottenham. Yes, I know in the Premier League era, we haven't won much. Probably we've gone backwards on a lot of periods, but still, this is a club to be proud of because we are one of the top English teams. We do have a rich history. And, you know, and certainly in the Premier League era, when you look at all the teams that have been in the Premier League, I think there's only 6 teams that haven't ever been relegated. And we are one of them. Okay, we came very close last season, but we are one of them. You know, even Manchester City doesn't have that. Even some top teams don't have that. So, you know, we are, you know, and we are one of those clubs where we have, like, we have always been 100 odd whatever years that club has existed. We've come out of Tottenham and we're still there. Even with our new stadium, we're still part of that community. So there's a very rich history of the club. And I think anyone who comes to this club should be proud to put on that shirt, should bust their guts to do everything that they can. And so I just never felt that he fully embraced what it was to be a Spurs player. As for Jed Spence, it was kind of the same. I mean, I thought in his first couple of seasons, he didn't get a fair crack, because I thought every time he got a chance, I thought he did well. But for some reason, time after time, every new player, every new manager that came in didn't seem to quite fancy him. And he did go out on loan a few times, or he didn't get starts. So I think there is maybe an issue with attitude there and the way he applies himself, maybe in training and things like that. But clearly, again, we have to take into consideration that not just in preseason, but in the final, those 7 games where, you know, we tried to beat, we tried to not get relegated. I think it was a chance for De Zerbi to really get to know the players and get to know which players he can rely on and which players he can't. And certainly, I think because Porro, obviously, he won the World Cup and he signed a new contract as well just before during the World Cup. I guess, you know, he felt, well, with, you know, Robertson coming in, he probably felt he wasn't going to be first choice, and he didn't fancy sticking around and fighting it out and trying to, you know, push. And that's the kind of players we want. We want players, even though there might be a player there which have already guaranteed a spot. You want a player who's confident enough to come in and say, you know what, I'm going to put in work every day on that training pitch. And I think, as Ricky said earlier, I want to give the manager a difficult choice when it comes to picking who he's going to start with on a Saturday or a Sunday. I'm going to give it, even though, you know, he might be whoever it is, whether it's Porro, whether it's Robertson, I'm going to give him something to think about. I'm going to make it difficult for him to leave me out. And we need those kind of players coming in with that kind of commitment if we're going to push on and win more silverware, and if we're going to challenge on every front. I think those are the kind of players that we need. And clearly, both Romero and Spence weren't those kind of players. And we definitely need to replace him, though. We definitely now, I think, to the list of a left winger and a striker, we definitely need a right back, because the only actual right back that we have is Porro. And if something happens to him, we have got no backup in that position. And as we've all said, you know, Archie Gray isn't a right back. And so we definitely need a replacement to come in. In preseason, actually, in the earlier games, I was impressed by. I find it difficult to say his name, but there's a one of the youth players called, is it Malaraki or something? Chris,
Malachi Hardy.
Yes, no, not Hardy. Hardy plays in centre back, but there was a guy who was I think he picked up a knock, and I think he's injured now, unfortunately. But I thought he was doing quite well. I thought maybe he might be an understudy to Porro, but I think he's injured as well. It's a long surname. It's like, anyway, doesn't matter. I'll find it.
Are you talking about Kyrametan?
Yeah, Kalamaratan or something. Like it's just long.
He was playing left side. I think it was Ty Hall that was playing right side.
But I think on MK Don, when we played MK Dons, he started on the right back position. So I think he's versatile. He can do both left back and right back. And I thought he was another one of the youngsters that impressed, or was starting to impress. But Kyra Matten, or I think, yeah, exactly. So I think he picked up a knock. So it would have been cool to see his development. But yeah, so we definitely needed a replacement right back. But yeah, I think, thanks to both of them. Thanks for their efforts while they were wearing the shirt, but good luck in their future careers. As Ricky was saying, I think there's a number of red cards incoming when Atletico play Real Madrid and Barcelona. I think we might see Romero's name, red cards a number of times. Who knows? Especially with a manager like, Simeone. I can see him actually, getting a few red cards over there as well. But yeah, good luck to them both. But let's get on with this incredible season that I'm highly excited about. And yeah.
Indeed. Good luck to them both. As you said, they're Orchy. Final question for you all, and apologies for anyone thinking that this was going to be a short podcast. I thought we was going to be recording for about an hour. We've been recording for over 2. But I tell you what, there's only 2 reasons why we record for this amount of time. It's either really, really bad or it's really good. And I'm just glad that it's really good right now. Anyway, Ricky, final question for you. What would you like to see happen? What needs to happen in the next 17 days of the transfer window? 2.5 weeks of the transfer window left. Spurs have shown real intent early on in the transfer window. What would you like to see happen? What needs to happen in terms of incomings, but also departures? Who would you like to see leave? Who does need to leave the football club? But most importantly, in that forward position, in that final third, Savinho is a name that keeps cropping up. Cody Gakpo is a name that now keeps cropping up. Would you like to see them two come in at Tottenham? Would you like to see a striker come in at Tottenham? If so, who?
So, I mean, we all know the work that needs to be done right now. It's in the attacking areas. Roberto De Zerbi knows it. We all know it. We've been crying out for it for a very, very long time now. But I think what needs to happen is that those attackers are along the same lines as Fernandes and Tonali, of the level and of the choice of the manager. The fact that Roberto's got so much influence within these transfers right now gives me a lot of confidence. Someone like Savinho is a player, I'm telling you now, I know it's been a long saga. I know a lot of us are tired from it. But I think he's one of those players that is going to get us off our seat. I think he's one of those exciting players that creates chaos. And I don't want to speak too much about him because he's not holding no shirt. And we've been through this so many times where we speak about a player and he's not holding the shirt. But if it is him, I think that there's a plan there. I think that Roberto wants him for a specific reason. Same with Gakpo. If that's the guy that Roberto wants, there's a plan there. He knows it, like, for instance, we know about the height issue, right? We don't have so much height anymore, so someone like Gakpo might be a solution to something like that. And also I preferred him. He didn't play there many times, but I like him in the middle. When he was playing for PSV back in the day, there was a lot of times that he would drift into the middle or he would start in the middle. And he's intelligent enough to understand the way that we want to play, to know how to run off the back, run off in behind, on the offside trap. I think he's intelligent enough to understand the timing of the crosses that are coming in. He's already got a relationship with not only Xavi but Robertson as well. So I think that could be a good link. And then we know we need a centre forward. We need a goal machine. We need somebody who's hungry for goals and who is a goal machine. If that is Osimhen, fantastic. I like the look at that. Mikatadze, I think the Georgian player, I think that he looks very kind of silky and skillful, and he looks troublesome, and he strikes the ball so clean. There were a couple of other young strikers, Francolino Jew and stuff, but what we need is somebody in there that Roberto, that fits Roberto. I could go on all day about strikers that I like. For me, we speak about Savinho. I like Yildiz at Juventus. I think that he would be fantastic for us. But it's about what Roberto needs for that system and for the tools in his toolbox, so he can use what he needs when he needs to solve different problems, and fix different problems. So it's about what he wants. And as long as we keep backing him, not only in his way of thinking and the style of player that fits the system that we're going to be playing, but also of the level, quality, and it doesn't have to be £100 million player, but I'm talking about that. Don't shy away if it is £100 million. Like, go out there and do what you need to do. But continue the good work that you've started. There's no point going half-hearted right now. If you stop now, you almost muddy the good work that you've done, and this board knows it. And I think a lot of the times that we've been tripped up in this transfer window is to do with politics and transfer chess in between teams. So let's just breathe and let's just trust that they're going to follow through on this plan. I'm going to give them this because they started so well. I'm going to give them this, the board and those that are making the deals happen. I'm going to give them this because they've done so well so far, and I'm going to trust them up until the point that we make these signings that we need. So I think it's exciting times ahead, my friend, either which way.
Ricky, very quick answer. If the transfer window ended this evening, what rating out of 10 would you give it?
I'd probably give it around an 8. I think the quality of Tonali and Fernandes, we haven't seen much of Fernandes, but actually sorting out the back line, given that balance. But it's the level of player that we've gone for in Fernandes and Tonali. Also, some of the sales. I would have liked to have kept Vuskovic and maybe sold Danzo and have him come through as the fourth centre-back, and try and bleed him through. But if he didn't want to stay, then all right, cool. And we got some good money for him. But the majority of the sales have been good. Yes, low fees on Romero and Spence, but you know what? Look at Solomon right now. We have hung on for 20 mil for about 4 seasons, and we haven't received it. And we've ended up getting 5 mil with 2 mil add-ons. The depreciation can happen as well as it going, as well as the price skyrocketing as well. So I think the sales have been good. I think we've sold at the right times. So for the sales and the level of quality that we brought in right now, I'm going to give it about an 8.
Dustin, what needs to happen in the next 2.5 weeks?
I think a couple of bombers need to happen. Look, the main thing that we can all see clear as day is that we need a striker. And I said earlier why we need a striker, because profile-wise, Richarlison and Solanke are too different, and they don't cover enough, and their fitness is questionable. So the main ones, Krupi would have been a good choice. He's injured. Whether we're willing to pay for him and wait for him to recover is another thing. The closest match to him is Endrick. And you can see from here, Endrick is purple-ish. So you can see how Endrick matches Krupi better, because there are more short-ending carries, progressive carries, chances created. Because De Zerbi wants Krupi, what he wants isn't just a striker that finishes goals, but he also wants someone that connects play and creates assists for his winners. But we are also apparently in talks for Osman. So then Osman is here with the brown radar. And the other possibility, which Ricky mentioned, was Mikotase. So these are kinds of like the strikers that I would accept as our striking options. I think Endrick is probably the one that fits the Zerbi system the best, but I would love Osman because of what he offers in the box and just his finishing. I think he would bully most defenses in the Premier League. The other option that I see for left wing, I think we are in talks with Savinho. Savinho has all kinds of question marks around his performances at City. I think if you look at his actual performances, a lot of it is him not being in sync with City's system. What he does from the perspective of creating dangerous chances is good if you have a striker that can finish him off. I would also accept a Rafa Leao, depending on whether he is... I think there are a lot of question marks around Leao's attitude. The other is Nico Williams. So I would, for wingers, Nico Williams, Rafa Leao, Savinho. For strikers, Osman, Endrick, or Mikotase.
And finally, Orchy with...
Nick Boucher has said that no moves happen until Romero is sold. Well, Romero has been sold, so give us the bombers.
And finally, Orchy with you. And I also want to give you this stat as well, because Savinho, 53 appearances in the Premier League, 2 goals, 9 assists. Can Roberto De Zerbi, if Spurs sign him, can Roberto De Zerbi get more out of him? Because there are some people, and I've had this conversation with Craig quite often, and he says, well, if you're playing in the Pep Guardiola side and you're only providing 9 assists and scoring only 2 goals, then he sees that there's an issue there. Do you agree?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, last season, obviously, they had Semenyo. So Semenyo plays in that same position. So his play time was quite limited. And Semenyo being the player that he is, I mean, obviously, we wanted him as well. But look, at the end of the day, no matter what our views are, I just trust De Zerbi. I mean, I was already, I was I was already a big De Zerbi fan anyway. But even today's game, as I said, seeing the patterns of play, seeing the huge improvement that already exists before the season started, I trust his knowledge and his assessment of the players, and if and he's clearly in charge of he leads the recruitment. He's leading the recruitment, and obviously, if he didn't fancy whether it's Savinho, whether it's Gakpo, all the names that we've been associated with. I mean, of course, I would have loved us to go and get Krupi. And I think in previous shows I said to you, I think even if Bournemouth are coming out saying he's not for sale, I would have loved us to just slap, whatever it's 80 million, 90 million on the table and test their resolve. That's what I wanted us to do with Krupi, but then he got injured, so we have to look elsewhere. So I think Savinho I think he will be better under the right coaching and in the right type of game style. I think he could come on bundles. So, and for me the question is that the player, is that De Zerbi's, with what's available in the market, is that De Zerbi's first choice? If it is his first choice, then go and get him. If Gakpo is also his first choice, go and get him, even if it's just for this season or for one season or whatever. Go and get him, because clearly we're going to be a team that's going to be on the front foot. We're going to be creating a hell of a lot more chances. We're going to be playing a lot more better. So I mean, I even like there are other strikers in the Premier League that, I mean, I would have been fine for us to even get someone like Welbeck, for example. He would have put chances away. So it's, as long as it's somebody who's good at putting the ball in the back of the net. I mentioned this in the group chat. I think we might see a different Solanke this season if he can stay fit. In this system, Solanke could come, leaps and bounds, and maybe, he might turn into a striker that scores, 20 plus, 15 maybe, or 20 plus goals in the season. So it's difficult to say, but we definitely we do need more players. But I think I wouldn't necessarily look at specifically on Savinho. I wouldn't necessarily look at his stats up to now, because I think there is a good player in there. He's a player that is also good at running with the ball, getting past players, a bit like what Tell did today so effectively. And also, I mean, if we get Savinho to go on the left wing, I remember very distinctly when we bought Tell, a lot of noise from Germany was saying that, yes, he can play on the left wing, on the right wing, but he's really good at going through the middle, and that's what he prefers to do. So maybe Tell might get a chance of actually playing in his preferred position, which is apparently through the middle, through the center, as the main striker. So, but yeah, I mean, we definitely need a left winger. We definitely need another striker. I think if it was me, I would sell Richarlison, keep Solanke, and just get another, decent striker. And obviously, we need a right back as well, I think, to replace Spence. I think if we buy those 3 players, I would I would definitely rate this about 9 out of 10. At the moment, I rate it as 7, because you asked the question, if the transfer market finished today, what would you give the current business that we've done? I would give it about 7 out of 10, because we have definitely improved the quality of the squad and the depth of the squad. But if we get those 3 positions as well, 3 more players, I would definitely give it like a 9.5 out of 10.
Orchy, thank you so much for joining us this evening. and you'll be on a lot more. People are saying that you're giving Ricky Norwood a run for his money, the amount of talking that you've done on this podcast. But of course, you've got a lot to say, and we love to hear it. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Always a pleasure coming on.
And Dustin, thank you so much for all of your input, especially all these graphics that you do for this channel.
It's the work of some really hardworking coders there. I would like to shout them out, but yeah, it's by this guy that has basically created this site from scratch, and yeah, there's a lot of work that's been done by like people that take football data and make it open source for all of us to use. So that's great.
Well, thank you, Dustin. And Ricky, thank you so much. We won't see you for a little bit because you're now off working. Tell everyone about what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm going to be off for a couple of months, guys. So, like, make sure you know what I mean, bring the positivity, all right? Make sure you bring the vibes while I'm away. But, yeah, I'm doing a play at the moment. So, it's called 12 Angry Men. We start at the Theatre Royal Windsor on September 3rd, going until the 12th there. But then we're on tour. So, we're going to Aberdeen, Carlisle. We're going to Darlington. We're going all over the place. But it's the Bill Kenwright Limited theatre company. So Bill Kenwright used to own Everton back in the day before he passed away, God rest him. And if you know, he's a big theatre lover, and this is his company. So we're going to be going around. It's going to be really exciting. Rehearsals start next week. And then, like I say, September, we are in Windsor. So, yeah, check out the website. I'm sure on my Instagram, there's a post there somewhere. And yeah, if you're around, come down and see it, man. It's a real serious play. It's a fantastic piece. I've got to play a New York guy. So, yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. And I don't crack too many jokes or smile too many times in this one. So I'm sure you'll be seeing a different side of me.
What?
Yeah, it's true. It's true, brother. It's true. So, yeah, man, if you're around, come down and see it. If you see it advertised, come down, man. And if you want to say hello afterwards, or, I'm always there, man. So, but in the meantime, just keep the vibes alive. Oh, and there's one more thing as well. I forgot to even say, happy birthday to you, Chris. Happy birthday to you, Chris. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Chris. Happy birthday, sunshine. You thought you was going to get away with that one, didn't you?
It was last week. You all
forgot.
But
it's the first time that I've seen you. So listen, make sure you give Chris Cowlin some birthday love. You know how hard he works. You know he goes around the world following this crazy club and giving all of you beautiful people out there, immense high quality content, and allows me to rant on for ages as well. So yeah, man, make sure you send him some birthday love. Happy birthday, Chris, man. Hope you had a fantastic one, brother. And look, brighter days ahead when it comes down to Tottenham, bro.
Ricky, I'm your and we will make sure
while you're away.
I didn't hear
no
none
idea
of that.
why Chris asked me to come on.
Orchy will make up for you. Don't worry.
Oh, nice one, Orchy. Yeah, you take over, brother. All right.
And what I was going to say is there's no way that we're going to allow Ricky Norwood to be off from this channel for 2 months. So we will come to you. We will come to you. So we will come and see your show. We will go out for dinner. We will have a couple of drinks, and I'll shove the camera in your face and ask you about your opinions and all sorts. So it will happen. Don't worry.
I mean, I'll try and come on. I mean, I don't know what days off I've got as yet. So if I do have a day off during a match game or something like that, I will jump back on and I will see all you beautiful people. But yeah, it's time to go to work, man. So it's going to be exciting. And look, all of if you come down, like I say, much appreciated, man. It'd be great to see you.
And in future, if Ricky and Orchy are on together, do expect a 2.5 hour podcast.
Come on, you Spurs.
Ricky, Dustin, Orchy, thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow because, of course, Spurs play Hoffenheim tomorrow, 12 noon UK time, behind closed doors at Hotspur Way. That is our last pre-season friendly before the real action starts this time next week against Brentford away, the start of the 26-27 Premier League campaign. It feels exciting. Spurs need to get another couple of deals over the line, but it does feel exciting under boss Roberto De Zerbi. Ricky, Dustin, Orchy, thanks so much. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on.
Yes, the Bombers!
We'll be right back.